This podcast is brought to you by Voice and Vision, bringing help, hope, and healing to individuals, families, and communities affected by mental illness, addictions, and disabilities in southeastern Pennsylvania.
Welcome to Untold Valor, a podcast with a unique focus on veterans, featuring stories of courage, recovery, perseverance, and strength. Listen to hear veterans share their perspectives on what it's like to battle mental health challenges, combat addictions, and overcome other adversities unique to those who have served.
Thanks for joining us on another edition of Untold Valor, Veterans Recovery in Action, with yet another special, fantastic guest joining us this week here on the podcast. The Honorable John P. Capuzzi Sr. Is going to be hanging out with us today, chatting a little bit about what it is that he does and how he helps veterans in and around the areas here. So we're looking forward to that great conversation. Again, a fantastic bio that take me the whole podcast if I read everything that this gentleman's accomplished. So we'll just dive in and get to chatting with him just in a second. But we've got Reverend Ben, as always, joining us as well. So Reverend Ben, how are you this week, buddy?
I'm doing fantastic. How's everyone?
Doing very well, and looking forward to chatting with John. How you doing, sir? Thanks for joining us.
I am great, Mark. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, sir. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, like I said, your bio is pretty hefty here, but what are you doing in recent or currently, and how are you helping veterans in the area? Obviously, that's the goal of the podcast here, is providing content and resources and help for those out there who are in that, that service group.
Well, I'm now a senior judge, having served a full 11 years in the Court of Common Pleas as a regular commission judge, and all in the criminal division. And as a senior judge, I've taken over administering the Veterans Court. I administer the Mental Health Court. I administer the Second Chance Court, which is a pre-trial substance abuse court.
Oh, okay.
Administer the program for gun violence reduction for young offenders.
Wow. Okay. So what is Veterans Court for those who might not be familiar with it?
In Veterans Court, it's an alternative disposition or tract for those people facing criminal charges and who have served as veterans and might be suffering from the effects of things that occur during their service. So, as I always tell people, our first priority is let's address the conditions that are affecting you. It may be mental health, it may be substance abuse, or it may be both, which we call co-occurring disorders. So our primary purpose is let's heal the mind and body before we worry about the criminal charges.
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah. And so you've been doing that for, you said, about 11 years now?
Well, I've been on the bench. This is my 13th or 14th year.
Okay.
And before that, I was a magisterial district judge for 6 years too. So I've been dealing, with people with problems for going on 20 years.
Yeah, and obviously, looking at your bio, you've been doing a lot of service in the community for many, many years. Is the type of work that you're doing, is it typically a range of veterans from, is there kind of an age range, or is it just across the board?
Well, we have no limitations on age.
Okay.
It's a team. It's not just me. That's
right.
What I have to emphasize.
Gotcha.
I mean, we have assistant district attorney that's assigned to the unit. We have a public defender who's assigned to the unit. We have our Veterans Court here in our Veterans Affairs Office with Colonel Jenkins and his assistant Frank Panico. We have Lily Thomas, who's our Veterans liaison between the veterans facilities and the court. And we have our probation officers, Jeremy and Keith, that work in the group.
Gotcha. So obviously, yeah, it takes a team to help out. And so how does a veteran find themselves here, in this kind of situation, Judge, where they're needing some help? Is it sometimes through a transition where they've come back and had some difficulties and something's kind of gone awry? Or what typically is kind of some of the cases that come before you?
Well, none of the cases are typical because we don't look at them as typical or that they fit a mold. Everybody's an individual. So our object is to identify what the problems or issues are affecting the veteran, because that's the only way we can address it. We can't lump people together. We can't, say, well, he fits in this class or she fits in that class. Yeah. That just doesn't work. as I tell others when they ask, we're dealing with people first. And so I try to give that personal relationship. So what I do is when we have the Veterans Court, I'll come down and sit. I won't sit on the bench. I'll come down and sit in what we call the well of the court, sit side by the veteran and talk to them. Sometimes when they're having problems, I will bring them into what we call the robing room behind the court, where we may want to discuss things that are very confidential or they might be, afraid to discuss in public. And so we're never out to embarrass anyone. And so it's what we're trying to do is get them to open up if they have problems, and so we can help them find a solution to the problem.
Gotcha. And Reverend Ben, you've been working with John for a while now. Olga was telling me that he's been fantastic in helping the services that you guys provide with folks as well.
Yes, I've worked alongside the judge for a couple hearings, and from what I'm seeing is he is a person he has a passion for helping. A lot of times we hear about the judicial system, it's about punishment. But Judge Capuzzi has turned it around to where these people who have made mistakes get a second chance, and sometimes even a third chance. So it's a good program for veterans to come in to avoid going to jail. It's designed to maybe build them back up for society. And I think it's a very good cause. And the judge definitely has a heart for this.
Gotcha. And is that kind of similar, sir, to you were talking about like the mental health court, things of that nature? These all kind of work together depending on the person's needs?
Exactly. I mean, because when you start meeting with the people one-on-one, you try and find out what caused them to be in the problem they're at now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a difficult situation for some of them to talk about. And for example, I have a gentleman, he graduated last week from the Veterans Court.
Okay.
And when he graduated, what happened was, and we had two graduate, the district attorney, because they've completed the program, once they got into it, everything they had to do for 2 years, the district attorney does what we call a null pros, which is withdraw the charges. So that's one of the benefits about being in the Veterans Court,
mm-hmm.
is that you successfully complete the program. In most instances, the criminal charges will go away.
Gotcha.
The object is to get them the help, not to persecute them.
So there's kind of I guess like a ladder to climb, if you will, right? Some steps you need to work through in order to hit that graduation point.
Exactly. In the beginning, we see them every other week, and then we'll progress to once a month, and then maybe to 6 weeks or 2 months, as long as we're getting good reports that they're doing what they have to do. And by I mean good reports, is they're going to their sessions at the VA, getting their medical care that they need, and if they need psychological care or substance abuse care, they're participating in the group programs or individual therapy. And that's why having Lily Thomas from the VA, she can facilitate all that. And so like a couple weeks ago, the entire team, along with the Chester County team, we went up to the VA in Coatesville, and we spent 6 or 7 hours there meeting the people that provide the different types of care.
Mm.
And then as a result of that, I invited Dr. Joe, who runs one of the groups, to come to our Veterans Court last week. We have one individual who's struggling. I set it up so Dr. Joe and the individual and Lily could meet in the robing room. And now the person's going to enter into the therapy program that Dr. Joe runs to help him because he's having some issues. So by us learning about these types of things, it's going to expand the Veterans Court. For another example, Montgomery County has what's called a Veterans Response Team, so that in some cases where the police are called to respond, you'll have a person that's in a crisis that's a veteran. And we know from experience that one veteran talking to another veteran sometimes can diffuse the situation. So we're working to set that up in Delaware County now. And I've arranged to have a meeting in a couple of weeks with the chiefs of police from the 6 largest departments in Delaware County to get the ball rolling.
That's fantastic.
And so we hope we're going to have training in September, and hopefully by the end of the year, this program will be up and running so that if it's a veteran having an issue where the police are called, there'll be some police officer that's available to respond that's a veteran to talk veteran to veteran.
Yeah. And Ben, we've obviously seen that is, a helpful way to go.
For sure. Like the judge said, we look at the person, and that is what is key, is identifying with the individual and their specific needs to help them. And if we group them together, that would be a tragedy.
Yeah.
But to identify their needs and to have different aftercare set up for them to go to get support, that is very important. Very important for a person going through. The support is essential. It's one of the things Compere Core is here for too, to offer them some assistance as well as they go through the process in the courts.
Yeah, it seems like a natural fit for sure. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. John, how did you find yourself in this line? You've been practicing law for quite a while, and obviously through your career and working career, you've done a lot of different things. How did you kind of gravitate to this area? Did it just kind of happen naturally, or was this something you had kind of a passion for? Or
I want to say about 8-9 years ago, as judges, we go to continuing education every year.
Okay.
And I was at a court at one of the conferences, and they offer continuing education, and they had a panel discussion about people with substance use disorders, what the layperson calls addictions.
Right.
And the three of us from Delaware County that were sitting there were all former magisterial district judges. So we would see a lot of these people when they were arrested. And after listening to the panel discussion, and a couple of the people there were people in recovery, they said, had we gotten the help at the time we were arrested, we would have been so far down the road years later. And so it got us thinking, and I decided that I would approach the president judge with an idea to develop a mechanism to help these people at the time of the arrest. Because ordinarily, if you get arrested, you go before a magisterial district judge, your case won't be up here in the Court of Common Pleas for 4 to 6 months.
Okay.
So that's 4 to 6 months you're not getting treatment or help.
Right.
So we developed this plan called the Second Chance Court, and it took us about a year to get all the pieces in place, and we introduced it on March 9th in 2017. So it's been in effect, and we've had a very good success with it. Our recidivism rate is less than 30%, which is really good. We've had a couple people come through the program that are now what are called certified recovery specialists. And in fact, 3 weeks ago, one of the people that is a certified recovery specialist now works in our probation office. We have 2 recovery specialists in the probation office itself. And so she came in and spoke to the vets to let them know about the help that was available and how she was a longtime user, almost lost her family. Now she's back with it. There's another young lady, her and I do lectures together. And she was one of the people that was for 10 years, was in and out of jail.
Wow.
So my passion got started with the substance use. And then I was asked, there was a need for people in the mental health in a veterans court. Would I be willing to transition and help get that going and keep it going? Which for me, as long as I'm helping people, it was an easy choice.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. That's it. So you just kind of, worked its way in that direction, and you kind of got your, passion lit for helping that even further. So that's fantastic. It sounds like as though you've had your hands full. So that's good, though, right? I mean, keeping busy and helping people and success. It sounds like the success rate is good, and I think that's probably the key takeaway here.
Well, it is, because we have people that, like I said, the team works hard to help these people be successful.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have substance abuse problems, we have right down the street, we have MVP Recovery, which is a block and a half from the courthouse. If we have people struggling with substance abuse, we can walk them right down the street to get them assessed and get them into treatment. Likewise, they have psychiatrists there too. So we can sometimes get them right down to see the psychiatrist or set up the appointment. With the VA, we work through Lily. And Lily Thomas is very good at getting these appointments set up really quickly. And I can tell you, a lot of vets are fearful of the program. And I'll give you an example. One of the people that graduated last week is a guy I had probably 3.5 years ago in the criminal court. And I took him in the back room a couple times, tried to talk to him about getting into the vet program. And he had a couple hiccups in criminal court. And I finally told him, I said, you're not making it easy on me. You're at the point where I'm going to have to do something and probably put you in jail. Mm. And so he said, well, give me a chance, give me a chance. Well, we gave him the chance and he graduated. Because, once he accepted that he needed the help,
nice.
He put his heart and soul into the program. And as I told him, I said, I need to give you a kick in the ass to get you in here. But I'm glad I did.
Yeah. Yeah. You had to hit him with the tough love and say, look, you're putting me in a box here and I'm going to have to make a decision. So help yourself. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I tell people, when people ask, what's it like being a judge? And I tell them the hardest thing we do is put people in jail. Nobody wants to do that. And so if we can find alternatives for them and they're willing to accept the alternatives, we'll work with you.
Yeah. That's the key, right? Being willing to accept the alternatives, right? Because, like any situation we've talked about here, Ben and John as well, when we have veterans come on or we have people, we talk about situations, ultimately you got to want the help and turn to the help, right? And at that point, then when you do, hopefully the doors start to open and things maybe get a little bit easier. But sometimes that's the toughest battle for veterans is asking for and then accepting the help.
Well, it's not just veterans. It's
True.
Most people.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's why I said, I think with having people like Ben in the courtroom, or we have one of our park police officers that's a vet, and we have other people that are mentors that come in and sit there, it helps the vets that are having problems realize it's not just the court that's here. There's other people. There's people when you're in the same position you were in there sitting here to try and help you.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So it's a network of people helping.
Takes a team.
And I would like to add that I've been in the courtroom a few times, and normally a person who has a substance abuse issue going through judicial issues, when they relapse, they usually go down a rabbit hole because number one, it's their secret, and number two, they know they're going to jail. Whereas in Veterans Court, if a person relapses, it's an open door. They can come in and say, "Listen, I messed up," and they get the help that they need.
Yeah.
So the transparency of it all is really what helps these guys out. Is being able to be honest about their problem and get the help that they need.
There you go. Well,
from my experience, we've given people 3, 4, 5 chances.
Yeah.
If we think we can help them, I have a couple people now in the drug treatment court program, which goes from the early intervention to the long-term program. And there's one gentleman in there now who's thriving, but it took a long time. He had 4 relapses before he finally said, you know what, enough's enough. So, we understand there's hiccups. People, it's hard. I tell people all the time, look how hard it is for you to diet. Now, look how hard it is to stop when you've been using a substance or you've had these mental health issues. So that's how I try to relate to them, that particularly the lay people that don't understand. Why do you give them so many chances? Because we give them chances because we think they're salvageable and they want to help.
Well, there you go. Great story, great program here that you guys are working on and building. And so thank you so much, Honorable John P. Capuzzi Sr. for being here on the podcast. We always wrap it up, sir, with kind of a final thought from you. Like if for folks that are listening, checking this out, that may, maybe need a word of encouragement or something to kind of help, fire them up a little bit. What would you say as we depart?
I would tell them, don't give up on anyone, that everybody needs help in some way or the other. I don't care at some point in your life, but don't give up on them and reach your hand out to help them.
There you go. And that's what the team at Voice and Vision are about. And that's all the resources we type into and put here on the podcast. So again, if you need some help, check the show descriptions below. There's lots of links and resources for you to reach out to people to get some help if you're in need of it. You can also call them at 1-800-734-5665. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and share it with others who might benefit from the message. And we'll see you next time here on Untold Valor, Veterans Recovery in Action. Thank you for being here, John. We appreciate your time, sir. And thank you, Ben, for being here as always. We'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you for having me.
You've been listening to Untold Valor by Voice and Vision. We hope you found the information and resources discussed today helpful. As always, thank you for listening and for your support.
Remember to stay connected with us through our various social media platforms, including Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Don't forget to visit the website, voiceandvisioninc.org. That's voiceandvisioninc.org, where you can sign up for our blog and find free resources and information on upcoming events, webinars, workshops, and get support. You can also access our free help and hope guide for individuals and families struggling with substance use and addiction. If someone you know is struggling, please reach out for help because you and your life matter. Remember, the National Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is available to you at any time by dialing 988. We are all ambassadors of hope and recovery, and if you want to share your story, please contact us. Compeer Corps is also looking for veteran mentor volunteers and veteran participants. To find out more information about Compeer Corps, please call 610-541-0790. That's 610-541-0790. You can find all the links and contact information for the resources mentioned on today's episode by checking the description and the show notes section of your app. Thank you again for tuning in and for your support. Until next time, this has been Untold Valor.